Hi everyone. We're going to continue our basics of drafting with part 3. I'll be showing you several different types of windows and doors, closets, and fireplaces. Just a few reminders. We're drawing on our drafting table with our parallel, our paper. Remember to put your paper down, you have to lift up the two sides, put it against the parallel, and then use your painter's tape or drafting tape or the drafting dots to tape your paper down. Okay, and you can check to see if your paper is square by using your triangle, lining it up on the side of your paper, making sure everything is straight. Then you're good to go with your paper. Just a few other things I want to remind you of: making sure that your pencil is sharp. You're using your lead sharpener. You press on your lead holder and then you can sharpen your pencil. You're using the cotton piece in here to get the excess graphite off your pencil, and sometimes the point is a little sharp, so you just press down a tiny bit to get that tip off your pencil. Just a few other reminders to remember: to rotate your pencil when you're drawing. Make sure you're still practicing. You're rotating your pencil, you're pulling your pencil, you're not pushing. Also remember that you have different leads. We have our HB, which is for our borders, our 2H, which is for our object lines, and our 4H, which are for our guidelines. Today I'm going to be doing a window that has a mullion in it. And first I like to draw in 1-inch scale so that you can see it very clearly. So the first thing I'll do is draw my 4-inch wall. Remember, that is a constant for us. Your walls are 4 inches. I measured with my scale and I used the inches part of the scale to get the 4 inches. I put my pencil on the dot and then bring the parallel so that I can get a 4-inch wall. I am drawing lightly, okay, at first, so that this way, if I have to erase anything, it'll be easier to erase. Now, I already showed you how to do a regular window. The window with a mullion is a window that has a piece in between two windows. Now I'm going to make my window a little bit wider because of that. So I'm going to make a 4-foot wide window. So I'm measuring 4 feet in 1-inch scale because I'm in 1-inch scale. Just always remember what scale you're in and you're using the correct inches and feet. So I'm just marking my 4 feet. Okay, which is the width of the window. And just as a reminder, everything that I'm drawing in the basics of drafting is as if I sliced a room, took the top off of it, and I'm looking from a bird's eye view. So again, this is if I slice the room, the 4-inch wall, the width of my window, which is 4 feet. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my mullion in there, which is going to be in the center. And something you're going to get used to is always marking your center. So if I have a 4-foot wide window, my center is going to be 2 feet. Okay, so I'm just putting a dot there for the center. And then mullions, the piece in between the window, are different. The windows come in so many different shapes and sizes. You can't get married to just one size. You have to understand that you're reading specifications and you draw accordingly. For our purposes today, I'm going to put in a 3-inch mullion. So I need to use my inches area, and half of 3 inches is 1.5. So I'm marking where 1.5 inches would be so I can go 1.5 on one side, 1.5 on the other. and 1.5 plus 1.5 will give me 3 inches. So I just mark that, and then I'm able to just draw verticals, which will give me the mullion. I'll darken it in a little bit, but for right now, I just want to get the drawing down, just in case I make any mistakes. The next thing we're going to put in is our glass. Remember, we have that glass pane, and in 1-inch scale, we're able to see it pretty clearly. I want to mark my 2-inch, okay? I'm gonna double check that on this side. 4 inches, 2 inches. And I'm going a little bit above and a little bit below to get my glass pane in here. And I'm able to show the glass. Our next step is the sill. Remember, we did 1.5 inches over and 1.5 inches out from the window. And you're using your inches so that you're able to measure accurately. Once I have that, I can finish up my sill. I'm going to darken some lines because now I'm finished. I know what I drew is correct, and I can darken some of my lines. When I go to darken, I always put my pencil first so that I'm on the line that I drew. And I'm pulling the parallel to it. And I'm darkening my lines. And that's our window with a mullion. And the mullion is the piece in the center. And just to remind you, the size of the windows changes, okay? So you always have to read your specifications and then you can draw accordingly. But this is 1 inch equals 1 foot, 0 inches. And that's our window with a mullion. The next window I'm going to draw for you is going to be a bay window. I'm going to extend my 4-inch wall over here, and then I'll be able to get our bay window on the wall continuing. Now there are some things that you'll have for your bay window, which is you'll have a handout sheet that has some measurements on it for you that you'll be able to follow. And this is what I'm going to draw right now. Bay windows come in all different shapes and sizes. Just so that you understand what you're drawing. Okay, there are some dimensions on here. These are the dimensions. You don't have to draw the dimensions when you're practicing your bay window. They're there for you so that you can draw this. But what are you drawing? You're drawing a wall, okay, that has an angle, another wall that's parallel to your wall, and then another angle. Now, with bay windows, sometimes a bay window may have a line here that will represent there's a window seat in here, or the bay window has the floor running through it so that you can walk into this area. That's what we're going to draw today, but just know that bay windows, they also come in different shapes and sizes, and they may have a window seat or the floor may run all the way through. Just be aware of that. So for our purposes today, we're going to start with an opening that is 7 feet 6 inches wide. So I'm going to take my opening here and I'm going to measure my 7 feet 6 inches. I'm using the 6 inches on the 1 inch scale, and then I'm going across 7 feet. And that gives me the opening of my bay window. And I'm just marking that. Now this area here will be coming out. You can use your eraser and your erasing shield. Remember, the erasing shield you use so that you don't erase a line that you need. So it creates a nice clean break for you. And then I can erase out this part here. There we go. Don't forget you have your brush. And the brush is so that when you have erasures, you can get them out of your way without using your hands to get the oils. Now, one thing you'll notice on here, the angle that we're going to use is a 45-degree angle. Give me 1 second. We're going to be using a 45-degree angle, so you need your 45-degree triangle. We can't use the 30-60 because, as you can see, they're different angles. And for our bay window, we're going to do a 45. So I'm taking my 45-degree triangle, using my parallel, and lining it up with the opening of my bay window. And I'm just going to strike a line right here, and I'm doing that on both sides. Notice what I did to my triangle. All I did was flip it, okay, because a 45 is the same on both sides. 45 plus 45 equals a 90-degree, so that gives you the measurement, the exact same measurement on both sides, so that's all you need to do. The next thing we're going to do is our bay window is going to be 2 feet deep. So I'm just going to take my scale and I'm going to measure 2 feet deep. 2 feet deep. And I am measuring, you'll take notice of it here, that we're measuring from the outside wall to the inside of the bay window here. And what I'll do is I'll strike a horizontal line at that 2 feet. Right there. I'll extend my 45 on this side. And that gives me the inside wall of my bay window. Okay? Now what I need to do is I have to give the thickness of the wall. You see we have 4 inches here, 4 inches here. Well, I have to run a wall all around my bay window that is 4 inches. And it's a constant and it's measured accurately. The way that I'm able to measure accurately is I'm taking my 45 and I'm just striking a line, very light line, so that I can measure along that line. If I just measure with my scale in midair, I could be at the wrong angle. I have to be perpendicular to this angle here. So that's why I strike this line, so I can measure 4 inches accurately along that line. And that will give me the 4 inches that I need for the thickness of this wall. For this wall, I can measure straight. So I'm okay here. This one is good. And then on the left wall, I have to do the same thing. I'm going to strike a perpendicular line. I'm going to measure my 4 inches, and you measure accurately, and then I'm going to use my 45 to create that 4-inch wall, and then I complete that. So what I've done is I've just created the shell, if you will, of a 4-inch wall all around using my 45-degree triangle, my scale to measure the 4-inch deep. That gives me an accurate measurement. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put in 3 windows. Now in bay windows, they do come in different shapes and sizes, but I'm going to show you the largest window you could use on this type of a bay window. One thing that you have to remember is when you're putting a window into an opening, okay, you have a wall. A wall is structural. When you put a window in it, you're putting a hole in the wall, and that will then affect its integrity or the strength. So you have to make sure that you frame the window out properly. So we have to make sure that we leave enough space on each side of our windows to frame the window. So the minimum that we can have is 3 inches. We can always have more, but the least amount of space that we can have on either side of our windows is 3 inches. So what I'm doing is I'm just measuring from the corner 3 inches in on all sides. So I make sure I have 3 inches. And then I'm going to take the 45-degree triangle and I'm going to just mark out where that is. So I know the widths of my window. Now, I can make it larger than 3 inches, but just always remember you have to have 3 inches for framing. Now I have the openings for my windows, and all I'm doing now is I'm going to continue withdrawing windows as I have shown you, okay, to complete the bay window. The first thing I'm going to do is our glass. I mark the center. Mark my center again. I'm going a little bit above and a little bit below. Now that I have my glass in, I'm going to do the sills. Same thing on each window, 1.5 over, 1.5 out. Don't be afraid to triple check your measurements. Sometimes you just have to check again just to make sure you're okay. One other thing that you want to do as soon as I'm done with my sill, I'm going to sharpen my pencil again. Just something that you have to do as you're drawing, because if your pencil is not sharp, your lines will start to get too wide. Okay. And I'm going to finish up on each of my windows. always make sure that your scale is flat. I know we're working with a lot of materials, but sometimes we have so much on our table that, something I have to make sure of is my pencil is okay. That sometimes happens when we press really hard. Okay. Now I'm going to go back and darken the lines that I know I'm going to need, which are going to be my walls. That's the most important. And all I'm doing now, darkening my lines. This one as well. Okay, I think my sills are pretty dark, so I'm okay with that. The only other thing I'm going to darken are the widths of my windows. Sometimes you may find if you're drawing too dark, you may have to erase some lines out, but if you drew lightly, even for some of your guidelines for yourself, you should be okay. I may erase a little bit better here. And I have my bay window in 1-inch scale. You can practice, one thing I tell students, it's easier to draw in 1-inch scale because it's larger, but then as soon as you finish one in 1-inch scale, do one in 1/4-inch scale, just to get yourself used to the varying scales. Those are the windows that you need to practice and learn how to draw. And now I'm going to continue with the doors. I showed you how to do a single door. Right now, I'm going to do a double door for you, and we'll continue with our various types of doors. I'm going to draw myself another 4-inch wall. And this time I'm going to switch scale so that you can just see, you know, it's okay. It doesn't matter what scale we're in so long as it's appropriate for the drawing that we're doing. I'm going to go to 1/2-inch scale. So again, I look for the 1/2-inch fraction, and I'm going to do a 4-inch wall. And you'll see that the 4-inch wall in 1/2-inch scale is a little bit smaller. It's actually half the size of the 1-inch scale. and I have a few different types of doors I'm going to show you. So I just created a long 4-inch wall. Now our double doors are easy because they're just 2 single doors put together. So what I'm going to do is have a 6-foot wide opening in 1/2-inch scale. Okay, I'm going to measure 6 feet. And when you're first measuring, remember 1/2 inches on one side, 1 inch is on the other side. The smaller scale is closer to the edge. So notice we have a lot of different numbers here, and that can be confusing when you're first starting out. So you just have to triple check yourself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Remember the scale you're in, 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch equals 1 foot, so this is a 1/2 inch. So if you think about what you're doing before you do it, you can always check yourself. Okay, so that gives me my 6-foot opening. I'm even going to write 1/2 inch equals 1 foot over here for you so that you'll see that. And all I'm doing right now is just giving myself my opening. Now with our double doors, I'm going to have a door on this side, a door on this side, and they're going to meet in the center. So it is important for me to know where my center is, and I'm just going to mark that right now. I'll erase those lines later. Something that you have to do when you're doing your doors is if our opening is 6 feet, you have to think I have 2 doors, so in order for them to meet in the center, they each have to be 3 foot wide. And you have to make sure that you measure when you go to draw that you're drawing a 3-foot in-length door. And you're going to do that on both sides. Okay, 3 feet. And don't be afraid to check your measurements. Okay, I'm going to draw it and then I'm going to check it again just to make sure, because if this measurement is incorrect, your door will not close properly. And you have to remember, what am I drawing? Okay, I'm drawing a bunch of rectangles, but they're representing something. Our 4-inch, wall is just 2 lines. Okay, our door is 3 feet, okay, and the thickness of our door is 1.5 inches. And just remember which scale you're in, and you're using those inches, okay, to give me the thickness of the door. And then I can draw the thickness of my door. And I can complete my rectangle. Okay, so I have 2 doors, and now what I need to do is I need to get my door swings. One thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to erase out some lines that I don't need right now on both sides. Okay. Now, in order to do my door swings, I need a large circle template or our compass. Today, I have a large circle template. And a door swing, remember, is 1/4 of a complete circle. So what I'm going to do is I need to have an opening that is 6 feet wide. Here we go. Okay. So because this is such a large circle template, I can find a measurement that is, you'll see, this is 6 feet in diameter. And now what I can do is I can line it up so I have 1/4 of the circle as my door swing. So I'm going to line this up and do my door swing, and then I'm going to move it to this side. And I'm going to make sure that my lines do not overlap. I want to make sure that they meet, and I can check that. And there I have my double door. I'm going to erase the lines I don't need using the erasing shield. Here we go. Okay. And we have a double door in 1/2-inch scale. The next door we're going to do is a sliding door. And a sliding door can be an interior slider for a closet, or it can be an exterior slider, say out to a patio. And they are drawn pretty much the same. The only difference is that our exterior slider will have a sill on it. Our interior slider will just be the sliding doors. So I'm going to show you a slider right here. And for a slider, we also have 2 doors, just like with our double door. So I am going to do a 6-foot wide opening for our sliders. Now, just so that you know, sliders come in different shapes and sizes. You can have a 6-foot slider, you can have an 8-foot slider, you can have a 9-foot slider. They do come in different shapes and sizes, and they also may come with 2 doors or 4 doors. I'm going to show you 2 doors. Now, because our slider, I have to fit 2 doors in here, I'm going to do something that'll make it easier for me by erasing the wall for right now, because I have to get 2 doors in here. And so I have my opening, but I'm going to erase these 2 lines for right now. Now for the slider, because we're in such a small scale, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark my center, okay, 1/2-inch scale. I have my 4-inch wall. I just have to mark where 2 is. Here. And what I'm going to do is right at that 2-inch mark, I'm going to draw a horizontal line. That line is going to represent one side of one door and one side of the other. So there's a single line that's representing both doors, but on opposite sides. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark my center, which is at 3 feet. Okay, at 3 feet, okay? And our doors are 1.5 inches thick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the 1.5 on one side and the 1.5 on the other side. And they're going to overlap just a little bit, and I'm going to mark ever so slight where they're going to overlap. And then I can complete my door on the right. And I can complete my door on the left. And they overlap ever so slightly. Now, just so that you also know, with sliders, one door is stationary and one door opens. When you are purchasing a slider, you have to make sure that you're purchasing it so that the correct door is either opening from left to right or right to left, and that will depend on the interior. But to draw a slider, this is how you draw a slider. And then if it were exterior, we would just add a sill, or 1.5. Out. And that would be an exterior sliding glass door. Our next door we're going to do is going to be a bifold door. A bifold door comes in different shapes and sizes. Sometimes you can have a bifold that only has 2 doors. Sometimes you can have a bifold that has 4 doors on it. I'm going to do a 4-door bifold. I'm going to do a 4-foot opening for my bifold. So I'm going to do 4 feet in 1/2-inch scale here. This is my opening. It's 4 feet wide, and I'm going to erase out the wall now. I won't be needing that. Now what you have to remember with bifolds is, how does a bifold operate? And sometimes it's good to just do a little drawing, just a sketch. You can take a piece of paper and you can think about, what am I drawing? I am drawing, and always remember, we're slicing a room, we're taking the top off, but if I have this opening here, okay, and I'm just doing it by freehand so that you understand. This is my wall, but what I'm actually doing is I'm drawing a rectangle because that's going to represent one of the doors. Now we have 4, okay, because in order for a bifold to work, it's like an accordion, okay, we have to have 4 doors, but you have to remember we're drawing rectangles, okay, not trapezoids, rectangles, okay? And what I want you to take notice of, this is where our hinge would be. There would be hinges where the doors meet and a hinge where the door meets the wall. So this is what we are drawing. It is just as if we sliced it, took the top off, and now we have a bird's eye view. But just remember, you're drawing a wall, which is representing the 4 inches, okay, here. And then you're going to be drawing 4 rectangles. That's all you're doing, 4 rectangles, but you have to draw them correctly. You'll notice this would be the hinge here, so the doors, this is the end of this door is in line with the side of this door, okay? And the same thing here. Side of this door is in line with the end. End of this door in line with the side. Think about what you're drawing before you draw it and understand what it is that you're drawing. You're not just putting lines down on this paper. They actually represent something. And think about that as, I'll leave it like this, as you're drawing. So I have this 4-foot opening, and now I'm going to get the doors in. I'm going to draw them at the 45-degree angle. So here, if I take this and I just draw a 45 on both sides, that will give me the angle that I need. Now I have to measure 1/2-inch scale, a 1-foot door. So I'm going to measure the width of it, which will be 1 foot right there, And then I'm going to measure on this side, 1 foot. Right there. Now the door thickness, sometimes with bifolds they may not be as wide as an actual door. Sometimes if they're made of metal they may be only 1 inch thick. So I'm going to do this one at 1 inch. If they're wood they could be 1.5, but we'll be okay here with our 1. I'm going to complete this door so I have a rectangle completed. Now, I just extended that line because remember what I said, the end of this door is going to represent the side of this door. So I just extended it down. Now I can measure, make sure you're measuring from the end of this door, 1 foot, okay? And then I have to give it a thickness as well. I'm going on my 1 inch. Okay. I'm going to darken some lines once I know that I'm good to go. And then always remember to end the rectangle. You have to complete it, okay? There we go. I completed one side. I'm just going to get it. There we go. Now I'm going to do the other. Same thing as I did over here. Notice 1 door, 2 doors. They're bifolds. They're at a 45-degree angle. One thing you're going to have to keep an eye on, you want to make sure that there's always going to be a space in between your doors, because in order for them to close, we're going to have a space in there. If your doors meet, something went wrong. Okay, so I measured my 1 foot. Now I'm going to do my thickness. I go lightly first. There we go. Extend. I'm measuring 1 foot. And I'm going to measure my thickness right there. Complete your rectangle. I'm going to erase some lines out. And you have your bifold. Notice the space in between, because if they were to close, they would then meet in the middle, okay? Remember our 45-degree angles on all our lines. You're drawing 4 rectangles, okay, which are representing 4 doors. That's our bifold. The last door I'm going to show you is a pocket door. I am going to draw it in 1 inch scale just to give it this one gets tight, and you'll see why. But pocket doors are great because they do not have a door swing. So that makes them a good door to use when you're short on space. So I'm going to be in 1 inch scale. I'm going to draw a 4 inch wall right here. Okay. And I have, with a pocket, you have to have double the size of the door. So if my door is 3 feet, I have to allow for 6 feet because the door has to retract into the wall. So if I'm going to be drawing my pocket, okay, I need to allow for 6 feet, 3 feet for the door opening and 3 feet for my pocket. Okay. I'm drawing light over here. This is darker because I know that's going to be an actual line. Now, this opening over here, I'm going to mark my 3 feet. That's going to represent where the door is going to close. I'm going to erase out the lines I don't need. Okay. Now the next thing that I have to draw is the pocket that the door is going into. Now, you have to think about this. We have only a 4-inch wall, okay? It's only 4 inches thick. My door is 1.5 inches thick, and that has to fit into there. So it's a pretty tight pocket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark my center. I always like to get my center so I know where I'm at. Now, in order for that 1.5 inch door to fit into the pocket, I have to give a little bit of space on either side. So what I'm going to do is make the pocket 2 inches. Okay, and that gives a little bit of space on either side for the door to retract into. And it has to go back. We have to have 3 feet of space for the door to go back into. So I'm going to mark here to the back, here to the back. I'm going to now darken this. I'm going to darken some lines that are representing our pocket. I know my wall is okay. I can darken my wall. I want you to be able to see that. Okay. That is the pocket. Now I have to get this door in here. I'm going to sharpen my pencil to make sure my pencil is sharp so that I can get a line in there without it being too thick. And what I'm going to show is I'm going to show the door half open and half in our pocket. I'm also going to erase this little line out. Nope. I'm just erasing the line in our pocket so I can get my door in there. There we go. I'm going to draw the door right where my pocket is so I can see that it's going to fit. I mark my center. And I mark my door. Now, I said I was going halfway into our opening and halfway into the pocket. So if we have a 3 foot wide door, I'm going 1 foot 6 inches or 18 inches into the pocket, and then 18 inches into our opening. And now I can draw a rectangle in here to represent our door. There we go. Okay, I have the door. I'm completing the rectangle. Okay, and then all I'm doing now is I'm going to draw an arrow which will show the direction that the door is going to go. And that is our pocket door. This is 1-inch scale, so it is larger, so you're able to see it. When you get down to 1/4-inch scale, it gets very, very tiny. So you have to make sure that your pencil is sharpened, you have a very sharp point, and you're very careful with your measurements. Those are the windows and doors. We're now going to go into a closet. And a closet is pretty easy. The main thing that you want to remember for a closet is typical closets are 2 feet deep. The width may change, but the depth for a coat closet, the minimum that you can have is 2 feet deep. I'm going to go back to our 1/2-inch scale, and I'm just going to do a closet very quickly over here, and I'm going to do a 3-foot wide closet. That, again, closets come in different shapes and sizes. If you had a linen closet where you don't have hanging, that could be shallower or less deep. It wouldn't be 2 feet deep. But if you're going to hang something, you need to have 2 feet deep. Now I'm in 1/2-inch scale here. I marked my 3-foot closet. I'll get my vertical lines on the width. The 2 feet deep, I just marked my 2 feet deep, okay? Now, there's, I just want you to remember, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay. Just want you to remember that if we have to allow for 3 inches on either side for the jamb of the door. We're going to actually put a door on here as well. So I just am getting the width of the closet and the 2 feet deep. Okay. Now we have to get walls on the other 3 sides. So I'm going to measure our 4 inches. Okay. Let me just get okay. And the last few things that we're going to do is we're going to mark the center, which is 1 foot, and that's going to represent if we had a shelf in the closet. And because the shelf is above 4 feet, we're going to draw that as a dotted line. The other thing we're going to put in here is a door, okay, because the closets will have doors. And I'm just going to darken some lines in here. And just so you know where walls meet, they're perpendicular to one another, you don't darken that line. In fact, you can erase that line out so that the walls are open. Okay. And now I just have to put a door in there. I'm going to put a slider. I want to put a slider in here, and I'm going to erase my opening. I'll mark my center. Right there. Remember, we'll draw one single line that will represent one side of each door. I mark my center, which is going to be 18 inches, and I'm going a little bit over on each side. And completing that door. Things that you just always have to remember with the closet: if it's hanging, we're 2 feet deep. In terms of the width can change, but for your door, you always have to remember that you have space on either side to frame. So the minimum you can have is 3 inches. We can have more. Just remember, the more space we have, the harder it is to get into that closet. So you just have to keep that in mind. But that is our closet. We're going to now draw a fireplace. Typically, our fireplaces are on an exterior wall. Sometimes they can be on an interior wall, but I'm going to show you one that's going to be for an exterior. I'm going to stick in our 1-inch scale. So I'm going to get my 1-inch wall down. Okay. Lightly, I'm going to draw my 4-inch wall. And just to remind you, we're drawing a fireplace that we've sliced our wall, lifting the top off, and we have a bird's eye view. Now, for our fireplace is going to have a 3-foot wide opening. Sizes of fireplaces also change. But you will have a chart that gives you the data that you will need to draw the opening of your fireplace. And the area that you're going to need to look at is where it has a width of 36 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark my 3-foot wide opening to my fireplace. Do it here. There's 3 feet wide. Okay. I'm going to make some lines a little bit darker just so that you can see. Okay. That is the width. Now I want to explain this chart that we have just so that you can understand the size of the fireplace can change. We're working with our 36 inches, and I know it's small, you may not be able to see it from there, but there are columns that represent the width, the height of the fireplace. We don't have to worry about the height in a floor plan, but if you were drawing an elevation, you would need this measurement. The depth you're going to need, and you'll notice that they have letters, A, B, C, D. That coincides with this plan view section so that you can see where you're measuring from and to. So A is the width. That's just what I drew, which is A. This is A right here. That's 36 inches or 3 feet wide, okay, which is what I drew right here. That's our width, okay? The height, like I said, I'm not showing that in this drawing, so I don't need that. Our depth is C. C is going from this part of the wall to the back of the fireplace. C is going from here to here. If I look at C, and I'm at 36 inches wide, we'll notice that it's 16 inches deep, okay? So I'm gonna draw that for you right now. So if it's 16 inches deep, I'm in 1-inch scale. Remember, right? Triple check, I'm 3 feet. And I'm 16 inches deep. That's 1 foot, 4 inches deep. So I'm going to mark that. That's the back of my fireplace. So I'm going to just draw a horizontal line going across. Now, if we continue on the chart, we'll see that the back, which is represented by the letter D, measures 23 inches. So D goes along the back of the fireplace. Now, how you know how to draw that 23 inches is we have to mark our center. We always need to know where our center is. So if I mark my center, let's just make sure I'm in, okay. Right here is my center. Now, if I have 23 inches, okay, I have to divide that in half. And that means I'm going 11.5 inches on one side and 11.5 inches on the other. And 9, 10, 11.5 is right here. 11.5 is right here. And that will give me the 23 inches. And then you can triple check just to make sure that we are at 23 inches, okay? So once I know that that's measured correctly, I can darken that line. Now, once I have everything in center, I can connect these two areas, and they will be the same angle. Okay, and that will give me where the logs will go in the fireplace. Now, there's still some framing that we have to do here. I have to get the box that the fireplace is in. And the overall size of our fireplace, okay, I'm going to darken these lines in so that you can see our 4-inch wall a little bit better. Okay, our box, okay, is going to be 2 feet 4 inches deep, and it's going to be our 5 feet or 6 feet wide. It's actually going to be 6 feet wide. So I have my center, so it's always easy to figure out our measurements to get everything equal if I mark my center. So if I have to draw a box that is 6 feet wide, I mark my center and I go 3 feet on either side. Now, this particular measurement can change. It depends on the size of the fireplace, but we have to understand what it is that we're drawing. We have a fire box, if you will, where the logs are going to go, and then we're having a framing of non-combustible material going around it. Okay, that's something that you have to be careful with fireplaces. Obviously, there's fire, so you always have to have a non-combustible material, and I'll show you how we represent that. So I have the width, and then if I have our depth, which is 2 feet 4 inches, I'm going right here. And then I have to draw the 4 inches for the walls all around, so I'm going to allow for that. I'm darkening my walls once I know that my measurements are okay. There we go. So now we have the framing for the fireplace, okay? There are 2 things that we have to add. We have to get a hearth, and we have to get the brick that surrounds the fireplace. In this drawing that I already have, you'll see the diagonal lines. The diagonal lines are representing brick. That is a section view of what brick would look like. That's what's called poching. It's representing a material in a graphic drawing. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get these diagonal lines in here. You do have to measure. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to give myself a very light line right here, okay? I might need a little bit darker. Okay, because I have to measure along this line. So if I'm in 1 inch scale and I want to draw the bricks, okay, I have to measure them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a 3 inch measurement, and so I'm measuring every 3 inches to represent the brick. Okay, and then I'm going to use my, let's see, I think I'm okay with my 45, and I'm going to draw diagonal lines to represent the brick. Now take notice, I am not going into the firebox area. I am just staying within the walls. And then we would continue all the way through. I'm going to, let's see if we can, I'll finish it up for you. Just get, here. I'm staying at the 45-degree angle. Notice once we get over to this side, I can go through. I'm just continuing to draw my 3-inch brick. There we go. So now we have our fireplace, but we need to add the hearth. And the hearth is very important because if this were an actual fireplace and it was lit, sometimes there are embers that come forward. So it's to protect the area in front of the fireplace. And the thing you always have to remember with fireplaces can be dangerous, so you always want to make sure that you check with the local code official to make sure that everything that you're doing with a fireplace is meeting code, and codes are laws. So you always have to make sure that you are meeting code. And you have to create a hearth around this fireplace. Okay, so what I am doing is I just measured on either side of the fireplace. I came out 18 inches, and that is a particular measurement because you will check with the township to make sure that if you have a wood burning or a gas fireplace, that you are going the correct dimension away from the opening of the fireplace. And that is for non-combustible material. So the material out here has to be either stone, it has to be granite, it has to be something that is not going to burn. You cannot do wood. And I'm also going to come away from the fireplace, okay? And I'm coming out my 18 inches. And again, that is also a measurement that you check with the township. what happens is when you're building, if they come and inspect, if you do not meet code, you will have to rip things out. And you don't want to have to do that. So you want to make sure that the dimensions that you're doing meet the township or the local township that you are in. So you always triple check that. Okay, but this represents the hearth of a non-combustible material so that if anything comes forward, your floor will not burn. Okay, and that's how you create a fireplace. One thing just to remind you, sometimes there are different symbols for fireplaces, but they're still representing the same thing. You're going to have a hearth, you're going to have a particular opening, you're going to have a firebox, and the framing for it. But that's how you draw a fireplace, and this was in 1-inch scale.